Transformation. We're talking about transforming your mind and body. This is Now Tell Us. I'm your host, Anthony Murore. At Now Tell Us, we get to have guests come and tell us stories. They come and inspire us, they come and educate us on a subject, and always we have a great time here. And thanks to you who ask questions, you who comment, that's how we end up having a great time when we have some great guests like today's, who is known as Elliot Hasoon. He's going to be here shortly to tell us. Yeah, because this is Now Tell Us. So why don't you join me as we go together to meet Elliot? But before we go, please remember to share this episode with all your friends. And yeah, let's go and meet Elliot together. Here we go. Hi, Elliot.
Hey Anthony, how are you? Great to be
I'm
here.
good. Yeah, welcome to the show. It's good that you are having you here today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Where in the world are you?
Right now, I am in Chile. It's one of the final stops for this year. There's a few countries to go yet, but we're in Chile at this moment in time. Have been here for the past 2 months or so, and we're here for still another month yet to go.
Sounds interesting. So several places to go. I wish I was in that position when I have choices. How does that happen for you, that you have choices of where to go?
Well, it all started in 2020 when I was actually living in London in the UK at the time, and I'd only left the country to go on holidays, to go on trips and travel, etc. But at that time, I started working remotely. I started my journey as an online fitness coach in 2019, and then later launched my own business in 2020. And then there came a point within the pandemic where I realistically recognized that I didn't have any reason to stay in one place. I was able to travel, and I knew that if I didn't take the opportunity then, maybe the opportunity wouldn't have come up again. I was young. I didn't have a huge amount of responsibilities per se. And of course, my family live in the UK, but I was happy to just visit them from time to time. So I decided to pack my life into a suitcase and start traveling. I chose at first the places that would allow me in the countries based on the pandemic. So it was a little bit challenging at first. And now the world that has opened up, it makes it so much easier. My fiance and I now do it together as well. I met her maybe 16 months or so into this journey too. So it's kind of been about 40% without and about 60% with, or the other way around. But yeah, it's been great. I've had two sides of that journey. So that's how it all started. And we continue today, and we continue to do it for as long as we continue to enjoy it.
Wow, so it's an online business that you have.
Exactly. So fortunately, we're not tied to any location.
Oh, that's good. And it's good that maybe at some point you're going to share ideas to someone who may be listening, who doesn't have a business that they can do where they are going anywhere in the world that they want.
Yeah, it's the ultimate thing you can do if you want the freedom of being at wherever you want geographically. If you can don't really need to be anywhere specific based on a location or clients that you need to see in person, it's an amazing opportunity for anyone who wants to take it.
Which countries have you been to in total? I mean, which are the major ones that you've visited?
I try and remember them in order. So I've been to Portugal, I've been to the UAE, I've been to Mexico, of course, Colombia, Chile, Italy, France, Greece in Athens, where you are, Poland, back to the UK, which is home, and Croatia. I think that might be all of them within this time frame anyway.
Okay, and I know there are so many more in waiting.
Yes, absolutely. And plenty of cities within those different places as well.
Okay, so far, which has been your favorite place to visit?
I've always had a soft spot for Mexico. And funnily enough, my fiance is Mexican, so it gives us even more reason to go back than I had before. So I really enjoyed the country before I met her, and it's safe to say I enjoy it even more now that we're together as well. So yeah, it's somewhere that I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoy. I have a soft spot for Portugal as well. I thoroughly enjoyed my time in Lisbon. I thought it was a really great place, and it was nice for the coffee shop culture, the digital nomad culture as well, and a good blend of work and lifestyle balance as well, which I really like. So I'd say those are entering my top two off the top of my head.
Anything to do with food in choosing Mexico?
Oh,
Because
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mexican food is famous world over.
Yeah, without a doubt. And once again, I thought I knew Mexican food before, but it's on a whole different level now. And yeah, it's one of the world's most unbelievable cuisines, that's for sure.
Your business that you do now online and you coach, is this the training and the coaching? Because I saw you do some coaching. Is this the same in the same area that you do the trainings and
Yeah,
coach, or is
correct. Yeah.
similar?
So I primarily take care of people's health and fitness. I like to incorporate more of a holistic aspect. So I look at their mindset and their lifestyle and all the other things that are involved in that. But primarily it's health and fitness coaching. It's getting people to ultimately, as the episode is titled today, helping transform both their mind and their body as well.
Tell us a bit more on that, transforming our mind and body, because we are curious to find out more how we can transform.
Yeah, and I think they're very much intertwined. And I think that realistically, when you start working on your body, it's almost as if your mind comes along and lessons start to present themselves, situations start to present themselves in which you need to look into your mind to upgrade, to develop, and to evolve in order to transform the body. And it's the same the other way around as well. Once you start upgrading your mind and you start to look into how I can improve my mindset, how I can become a more conscious individual, etc., then you start to see certain patterns that may be keeping you stuck when it comes to your health and fitness and your body as well. So I think it's really important that we look at them as two of the same versus completely separate things. And they also massively contribute towards each other either. So I think that realistically, you can't do one without the other. And if you do try to, you might get so far, but you won't get to the full capacity of what you're capable of achieving by just focusing on one or the other. Because of when you do them together, it's a completely different scenario and your life looks in a completely different way.
So we start with the mind, and I am someone who is very interested on this topic of the mind, because I know that the mind is the seed to everything else around. It all starts with the mind, and it ends up with from the thoughts that we have, the words that we end up saying, the actions we end up taking. Those are the things that shape our life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what how can I build a strong mind? How can yeah, someone is asking, maybe I need to be strong. Some people uh, undervalue themselves. They have so low self-esteem. How can I build my mind?
I think the best place to start with that enormous question is to look at the most obvious places in which your mind might be holding you back. So
Hmm.
to tackle a question like, how do I build a strong mind? It's like, well, it's going to look different for absolutely everyone. And some people might just need to be doing a little bit of tweaking and adjusting. And then other people might need a complete overhaul, just like take a house renovation as an example. Some people might just need to add an extension. Some people might need to tear everything down and kind of rebuild from scratch, just leaving the foundations. So the first place I would look is, where is your mind tripping you up on your day to day? You mentioned self-esteem, for example. And I
Hmm.
think it's about getting curious and it's about asking questions. It's like, well, at which point in my life did I start looking at myself as not worthy, not sufficient, not enough, etc.? And how does it show up on my day to day? And if it shows up in my work, for example, it's like, well, where is that coming from? Does that have any roots in reality? Or is it just kind of a story that I'm telling myself? Because I find, especially when I work with people in their health and fitness, most of the time they're just telling themselves bad stories, or stories that other people have told them that they continue to reinforce, that doesn't allow them to break into this next version of themselves, which could be so much happier, so much healthier, and so much stronger as well. So I think it's about finding the root of that truth. It's like, well, how truthful is this? If I'm always messing up in work, what is the reason? Why do I keep messing up in work? And then is it down to my ability? Is it lack of confidence in myself? And I think then it's a sense of saying, okay, what truth lives here? Okay, I don't think I'm worthy because I always make mistakes at my work. Okay, let's start by seeing if we can fix those mistakes at work. Let's try to build the skills that you need to start showing yourself some evidence that you are capable, that you are able to do this. And I think this is a real key aspect in the health and fitness journey as well, because a lot of people say, I've never been healthy before. I've never been an in-shape individual before. So they've got every reason to believe that they're never going to be that, because the evidence in their life up until that point points to that. It points to them only being unhealthy, never having an example of being in shape, etc. And it's fair that they believe that, because ultimately they don't have any other example. So we need to start creating evidence. We need to start creating examples of us doing this and allow this to build higher. So I always tell people it's building their bank of evidence. So you need more reasons in your life to suggest that you can do this, that you are enough, that you can be a healthy individual. And that starts by taking actions towards that. So on a health and fitness journey, that starts with having a day where maybe you don't know what to eat that's healthy, but you know what to not eat so much of, right? We might not necessarily know what to eat for dinner, but we know that pizza is probably not the way to go every single night. So start by removing the things that you think are not keeping you healthy right now. And you do that for one day, and that's one little bit of evidence. And that's one less bit of evidence to suggest that you are now this unhealthy individual, and you're now building the healthy individual. And then you just got to build it and build it and build it and keep reinforcing that new story. And also recognize that this old story is very, very strong. It will try and pull you back to your comfort zone. It will try and pull you back to what you think that you've been all of this time. But you've got to be stronger to be committed to this new version of yourself. And you need undeniable evidence. You need to do it day in, day out, day in, day out, so that if your mind goes, well, you're just going to end up unhealthy again, you're like, well, no, look at all of this evidence I've got to suggest that I am a healthy individual now. This is my new identity. This is the story I'm going to continue to tell myself. And this old version of myself, it served me. It was amazing for the time of my life, but I'm no longer that version of myself anymore. So it's all about reinforcing this new version of who you want to be and leaving behind, forgiving, thanking, and letting go of the version of the past. Maybe taking aspects that you liked of yourself, but putting it in this new and evolved version. And that's ultimately what I would say is the best way to start sculpting your mind, is starting to tell yourself better stories and being able to back those up with evidence that suggests that that story is more true than your previous story.
Thank you for that.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, at this point, let me thank all the viewers or listeners who have joined us. And specifically, let me thank Dani Narajo. She says, thank you for interviewing such an amazing coach.
Yeah, it's very kind.
Yeah, thank you for that comment. Now, I have a question. You meet with person for the very first time who is interested in improving his or her situation. Which is the starting point to know whether you're going to work with them, and how do you proceed?
I would say that we start with the end in mind and then we work backwards. So I want to know where someone is, but I also want to know where they go and how far away we are from that. Because it's always nice to have this big goal, this mountaintop to work towards, because once we've got that vision for the future, then we can say, okay, well, we're here today. This is the future of where we want to be. What are the steps in between that we need to take to get there? So it's always good to start with the end in mind, because then we can work backwards and see, okay, is this possible? Is it feasible? What's required in order for me to get there? And then we've also got to then take where you are today, because if someone says, I want to transform my body and my mind in 3 weeks because I've got a holiday coming up. Okay, that might be a little bit of an unrealistic time frame to make this big leap within that time. So we might say, okay, your big goal is here, but within that time frame, we can get to about here, which is amazing. So let's focus on that first mini step. And I think that then it's also about recognizing that individual. Like we said, if they've been telling themselves the story of, I can never get in shape, my whole family has been overweight for all my life, all these different type of stories that they've told themselves, it might not be as straightforward as just taking this linear path up towards where they want to be. Quite often, as you probably know, in many different aspects of our lives, it goes up and down, it goes up and down. And we've just got to make sure that the trajectory is heading in the direction that we ultimately want to go. And that's, the route to success, but not expecting it to just go in this linear fashion, because of what I've seen in my life and what I've seen with all the clients that I work with is it never seems to go that way. So I like to get an understanding of their goal and where they currently are, and then also what they're willing to do. People are highly motivated when they get started on a journey. They tell me they're willing to do 5 workouts a week. They'll eat the healthiest meals every single day. But what we recognize is that motivation is super, super high, and they've got a lot of incentive to get started. So most people will start off really hot, and then they'll end up finding that life comes up, challenges come up, and then unfortunately, all of a sudden, they recognize that maybe they couldn't quite commit to those 5 sessions. They couldn't quite commit to those daily meals and without going out and enjoying a pizza or something along those lines. So we've got to get a right idea of like, how can I start someone in a place, which is what I call minimum effective dose. What's the least we can do whilst getting the most out of what we're doing? Because I think that's a much, much better place to start, so that someone can say, okay, we start you off on 3 workouts, even though you think you're capable of doing 5. Because when you complete those 3, you're like, perfect, I've ticked all my boxes for the week. And also when you get started, if you're not used to doing that much just yet, you can get some phenomenal results with just a little bit of effort. So I like to start people off on something that's fairly minimum, that's going to extract the maximum effort, because I'm also thinking of the long-term nature of this journey. So we might want to start on 3 so that in the future, when we maybe encounter some challenges and some temporary pauses on the journey, we have things to introduce that keep us going and keep us allowing us to progress. So I like to start off with minimal effective dose and build someone up. If someone's highly, highly motivated, let's take advantage of that. And let's go a little harder in these early stages to get them the results they want to. And then it's just a case of monitoring, tweaking, adjusting, depending on the progress they're making, depending on their motivation levels, depending on how much their mindset is playing a role in this. Is it helping them or is it hindering them? Are we encountering more challenges than we expected? Or are we actually doing even better than we're expecting? And then it's just a case of trying to carry that momentum week and week and week and try to work towards that checkpoint of where we want to be, but by having these mini checkpoints in between. So it's about understanding where the goal is, understanding where the individual is, and then putting in practical steps in order for them to take those leaps towards where they want to be without them burning out and without them not seeing enough results in the process. Is a fine balance, because we're very impulsive. We want results right now, but also at the same time, sometimes we have to recognize that health and fitness isn't the only thing we've got going on in our life. We've got other things to do as well.
Yeah, sure. Life has to be lived.
Yes, exactly.
Which has been your biggest challenge so far?
Biggest challenge personally, or with a client, or fitness? What would you say?
Personally, in the business, which has been one of the biggest challenges that you've faced?
I think my biggest challenge to this point was when I was a little bit younger, when I was kind of early stages of my career. I left my hometown. I started working in a gym in London, and the gym and everything, like the job itself, wasn't the best environment for me to excel in per se. But that wasn't because of the gym was the issue. It was more that I had a lot going on in my mind and mentally that I hadn't really learned to understand yet. I was going through this journey of self-realization, personal development, understanding metacognition and my consciousness. I always tell people, up until the age of 22, 23, I had no idea that myself, Elliot Hasoon, and my thoughts were 2 different things. I kind of was just led by my thoughts. I was just kind of led by this lack of consciousness. So whatever way the wind blew and whichever thing I thought was appealing at the time, I kind of went down that route. And it was only during that period of time that I recognized that, some things were going on in my mind that I wasn't too happy with. There were some mental health challenges that I was facing as well. And that realistically, unless I was willing to look at that, there wasn't going to be a positive outlook downstream. So I had to go and do the work. I had to go look inwards, to work through some of the personal demons, to recognize that I wasn't my thoughts, to just really dig through the root of, certain traumas, certain situations that I had conditioned and other people conditioned on me in a certain way. And that journey in itself was a difficult one to work through, because you're trying to keep life going on the side as well. I was trying to be this coach who was inspiring people, helping people to become their best selves. And really, I was broken on the inside and I was just trying to get through the day and trying to work through my own challenges and my trauma. So I'd come up with a super happy face, trying to give everyone all of my energy and leave zero to myself. So it was a journey that, spans across until today, to be completely honest. I think once you have a journey where you recognize that, okay, I'm willing to look inwards, I'm willing to understand my mind, my traumas, my beliefs, and I'm willing to commit to getting better and better, especially on this journey of consciousness, which is always ongoing, then it's always ongoing. But those 2 years in that stage were probably the most challenging, because I had to kind of step into my identity, because I didn't really know who I was at that stage. And I had to realize that everything I had lived up until that point in my life was amazing, but that was just a version of myself where I was in the driving seat, but it was almost like I had my hands behind my back. I was just kind of making decisions based on what I thought was the best. And then it was almost this realization that, okay, your hands aren't tied up. You've got your hands on the wheel here. And now you have to kind of steer it through all of this that you've created in your life so far, but you weren't really aware that you were doing it. And now you need to steer it towards where you ultimately want to be. So I'd say that was kind of like a 1 to 2 year, really intense journey. I went for a lot of therapy, did hypnotherapy as well, did a lot of self-work, and come out on the other side in a much, much better position. Is a certain time in my life that I'm absolutely immensely grateful for, but it wasn't necessarily easy at that time. If you asked me at that time, I would have told you that I didn't want to be going through it. But now I tell everyone that I'm actually grateful for that, because it gave me all the lessons and everything that I've learned up until today that allows me to help other people as well, and also allows me to live the life that I want to live.
Yeah, the age that you just mentioned is one of the most crucial times in the lives of a person, when they are in a point where they don't know exactly where it is they are heading, and they are not very ready to leave behind what they've been. I mean, when everyone was looking after you, I mean, you didn't lack anything that you want. For example, if you're coming to live from living with your parents and then you're on your own, you have to make decisions, you have to think of the future. So it's not an easy point in life. What would you
Absolutely.
advise to someone who could be going through such a period, with such experiences that are challenging?
I would say to always have hope that things will eventually be better, but
Uh-huh.
also recognize that no one's going to do the work for you. You have to do the work. You have to look inwards, and you have to shape and create the life that you ultimately want to have. And I always say to people, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. So
Mm.
anything that you've gone through in your life up until this point, it might be the most unfair situation in the world. You might have had the most disadvantaged childhood you possibly could have. And that's not my situation, but I'm just giving in a very extreme example here. You could have
Yeah.
been the most disadvantaged, left at the starting line when everyone got this head start on you. But at the end of the day, you've got to ask yourself, now what? Like, what are you going to do about that? You have to look in the mirror and recognize that if you want something better for yourself, if you want to get yourself through a situation that you're not enjoying going through, you have to show up. You have to do the work, and it's not hard. It's not easy. Sorry, it will be hard and it will be challenging. It will seem unfair, but thinking unfair, thinking in the victim mentality, which is very easy for us to get into, it's not going to take you to the place that you want to be. It's just going to keep you there. And it's probably going to make you bitter as well, because of when you take that responsibility, you're empowered. Now you can steer the ship. Now you can move to the place where you want to be. But when everyone else has still got hold of the wheel, you're leaving it in their hands. And especially if you're bitter, other people are holding the wheel in your life, it's not going to take you anywhere. And if it is going to take you anywhere, it's only going to take you to a situation that may be even worse than where you are right now. So ultimately, I think having hope and faith that things can get better is the most crucial part. And the second thing is to take personal responsibility and recognize that it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility if you do want to move forward.
That's a good one. It's not your fault, but it's your responsibility. I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah, waking up every day thinking that you have something to do, you have decisions to make, you have actions to take, so that you end in the future where it is that you can always look back and say, I'm glad that I took the driver's seat at the point where
Yeah.
was I was demanded to.
What an empowering position to be in as well. Like you can, I think that's what people also think about as well. They're like, maybe I'm just driving my way out of a challenging situation, but you
Mhm.
don't only drive yourself out of a challenging situation, you then get to drive yourself to where you want to be. So it's like, okay, that portion of my life might have not been that great, and I didn't have my hands on the wheel. But now, for the remainder of my life and for every day thereafter, I get to go in the direction that I want to go into. And you might have to clear the way to begin with, and that's not super fun. But outside of that, it's really enjoyable and very empowering.
Yeah, sure. Now, talking of where you would, what you would want to be, like in your future, your dreams, and what's there for you tomorrow? What ideas, thoughts, dreams do you have?
Oh, I have a lot of thoughts, ideas, and dreams. I think from a personal perspective, very excited to have a family in the near future. That's something that's on the horizon and very, very exciting. Probably going to get married next year as well. So that's also super exciting as well. So from a personal perspective, everything is taking shape. The conversations I'm having with my partner, the future that we're starting to envision for ourselves, and we're just taking steps daily towards that. So I'm very excited about that. From a kind of personal development standpoint, I always tell people that my goal is simply to evolve, is to show up as a better version of myself within my personal life, within my professional life, within my relationships, within my friendships, and all the things that I prioritize and deem as important in my life. As long as I can look back and say that, Elliot, you did significantly better, or at least somewhat better than you did last year. That's the most
Mhm.
important thing to me. And then ultimately, when it comes to the professional side of things, I just want to keep having the impact that I have on people's health and fitness. I want to help more people transform their bodies, their minds, their shape, their health, so that they can live lives that they never thought that was available to them. You know, I've done this for the past 10 years now, being a fitness coach, and I've helped a lot of people on their way work out this complicated yet very simple thing called their health and fitness, and live such better lives because of it. So I just want to continue making sure that I give people the tools to do that within my coaching, within my podcast as well, so that they can ultimately have that box ticked in their life, and then they can go on to achieve all the things that they want to do, because their health and fitness is just something that's there to support them, and it's not this back of their mind worry that they're having all the time. They're not worrying about the next doctor's appointment, or when they can't chase their child down the street because they're feeling out of breath or anything. They're focused on living their best life because their health and fitness is covered.
That's beautiful. Give us a day in the life of a person who is transforming his mind and body. Brief,
Mm.
brief
Yeah,
about
I'll keep it very brief.
the day.
I think the key things that they have to do when it comes to, let's start with the transforming of the body. I think the key things they have to do is they have to do some form of exercise. And I would say that that can be as simple as a walk, or it can be a workout. The next thing they need to cover is their nutrition. So they need to be eating food that supports their goals, and making sure that they're eating enough high quality food that support not only their body composition, but their health as well. They have to hydrate themselves. They have to drink enough water during the day. They have to make sure that they're sleeping between 7 to 9 hours per night, and they're trying to get high quality sleep. And they need to manage their stress. We all live pretty stressful lives, so they need to have something in place that helps them negate that and helps them minimize it a little bit more, so that they can focus on the things that are important and also complete their tasks without too much overwhelm. So if you do all these things, you've covered your physical health, I would say. You've also covered aspects of your mental health as well, because of all these things help your mental well-being as well. And then the one other thing I would add to that is they can have maybe one or two personal practices that help them grow within their mindset. So that might be meditation, that might be journaling, that might be breath work, that might be just a moment with themselves, that might be listening to an educational podcast or something along those lines. I think that that's absolutely crucial. And then the one thing I would add to that as well is having a schedule that supports all of that, because of this is a lot to do, but it is possible. You just got to make sure you organize your time well enough so that you can do it on a regular basis, because the more you do these things, the more progress you see. The less you do these things, the less progress you see. So you need a schedule or some type of routine that ties all that together, so you don't feel overwhelmed by it, but it just kind of fits relatively seamlessly. I won't say effortlessly, because sometimes it will take some effort, but if it's seamlessly into your day to day, and if you can do those things, do them for a long enough period of time as well, and build them so that they become kind of second nature to you, you're going to win on a long-term basis, and you will transform your mind and your body.
Oh, thank you for that. But I have to admit, sometimes it's easier said than done, and it's at this point that
Absolutely.
we may require someone who is watching our back and who is telling us, "Hey, Anthony, wake up! Hey, Anthony." And that's where you come in. And for someone who could be listening now and is interested to know much more of what it is that you do, maybe watch some videos, maybe take a course or something like that, how can they follow up with you?
They can head to two places. The first is my podcast. It's a health and fitness podcast with a sprinkle of personal development as well. It's called the Simply Fit Podcast. We post about 3 to 4 times a week. There's over 400 episodes there. So anything that you can think of that's health and fitness related that you want to work on your journey, you should be able to find that episode covered. So that's the first place I'd send them. And then my Instagram, I post pretty much every single day. Either it's a video on something that can help someone on their journey, a quote, some type of learning that I'm sharing with them. I'm active on my stories as well. So there's always some value to take on someone's health, fitness, and personal development journey.
Your
And that's
website?
at Elliot Hasoon on Instagram as well. And my website is a good place to go if you want to work with me one-to-one. And that is www.ehcoaching.co.uk.
Okay, so that's ehcoaching.co.uk. So you can head over there and connect with Elliot for more on how to transform your mind and body, and maybe get some personal coaching. Thank you very much, Elliot, for coming to our podcast today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Anthony. The pleasure was mine, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, we are almost coming to the end of this show, but before we go, we would like you to leave us with a few words that we should always remember. From Elliot, which are they?
The words we should always remember is that we have the power to transform both our mind and body as long as we make the decision to do so and that we commit to doing it on a day-to-day basis. Then nothing is beyond us.
Thank you for that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we are able to.
We are
Yes.
indeed.
Yeah, so that's about it for today. Thank you once again for coming. And to everyone who's watched or listened to, even if you do this after we have recorded it, we thank you for your time. And you can always give us feedback. We appreciate. Subscribe to our channel, our platforms, follow us. We thank you. So this has been Now Tell Us, and I have been your host, Anthony Moirore. And together with our guest today, Elliot Hasoon, we're saying, take care of your mind, take care of your body. Bye for now.